Hello, hello. I want to welcome all of you to another hour of truth, information, knowledge, and mystery that you are hard to find anywhere else except right here on the Universal Consciousness Show. My name is Aage, and I'm one of the hosts, and I'm here in the southwest of the United States, and my co-host Diana is over in Europe. She's in Germany, some 7,000 miles away. Are you there, Diana?
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hi, hey. Okay, well, for those of you that want to listen to this show again, you can find it many different places, including Facebook and many other places on the net, social media. And also, we archive the shows on, and here's the website for those of you that want to listen, www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And through the show here, keep a pen and some paper handy because we just might be giving you stuff that you might find good to write down. We're known to do that. So get a pen out. And also, if you have somebody, a good friend or a relative or anybody you know that doesn't have access to a computer right now, give them this phone number. And they can call in and listen live just on the phone. That is 701-719-9704. And also, we are streaming live on YouTube. So go to Universal Consciousness Show on YouTube, and you can see us there. And otherwise, we will. We have a chat room, so you can go to, that is lnmradionetwork.com and get in the chat room and have some fun there, ask questions and stuff, and we just might be able to answer them for you. Because we feel really sharp tonight. And we have a phenomenal guest with us here. His name is Eddie Hill. And he has, him and several other people have put together a company they call Paranormal Analytical. And those people are the real Ghostbusters. They have electronic equipment, and they are investigating anything outside of the box in the paranormal. And they have found visual, video evidence for the fact that there is things outside of the physical. And we're going to make them talk about that tonight because a lot of us that is more analytical in our mind than the average bear out there, we want also physical evidence. And they have some of that, so we're going to talk about it. And then I want to bring Eddie on here. Eddie Hill, are you with us?
I am right here. How are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. I don't know any other way to do it, so, so
always the best way.
Yeah, let's do that. And Diana, you're there with us too, right?
Yes, I hope you can hear me because I have some issue here. Hello, Eddie. I'm Diana in Germany, and I'm very glad to have you in our show today. I was thinking about the work you are doing. This is such an unusual work. How did you get interested enough into this and to actually go and prove the paranormal?
Wow, Diana, you know what? It's a pleasure being here with you guys. I've been looking forward to doing this show with you, and it's a real honor to be able to be here on the show with all of you and talk a little bit about what we've had going on. And this has been going on for some time, and I have to say, this whole process of investigating the paranormal started when I was just a small child. And I would see things at my grandmother's house when we would go stay over there when I was real little. And I would talk to my grandmother about it, and she seemed to know basically more than what she was letting on. But I saw all kinds of dark shadows. I saw a baby that was in a window, looked like somebody had picked up the child and put it up to the window and held the child there. But when I ran to the door and opened it up, there was no one there. And I tried to talk to everybody and tell them that, hey, this is what's going on. But of course, being that I was small, nobody listened to me. And it was one of those type of situations where, it was an imaginary person, or he's just imagining this. And so, I mean, it wasn't anything that I could really share with a lot of people at the time, but I did have certain abilities as a child to be able to see different things going on around me. As I got older, I became a police officer, and I started using a lot of my, I guess you could say, intuition, for lack of better terminology, to perform my duties. And when I would talk to people, to kind of get a sense of whether they were lying or not, and that kind of a thing. And it worked out to my advantage. And I had a very long, prosperous career in law enforcement. And I retired about almost 4 years ago as a patrol sergeant. And I was on the force for 26 years. So, I mean, I had a long career, doing, police work. And I was involved in investigations. I was involved in special weapons and tactics. And, pretty much all areas of law enforcement throughout my career, I had something to do with during that time. So my experience and my knowledge is pretty diverse as far as law enforcement goes.
Now, there's a quick question that jumped into my mind here, and that is, within the law enforcement arena, how do they look at things outside of the physical? Do they just blow it off, or do they wonder, is there something there that we should consider?
Well, you know what? At the very beginning, I mean, it was one of those type of things where you didn't talk about it too much. It wasn't something that you really brought out into the open. But as time went on and I started to get to know people more, around me, I made friends. And of course, you build up companionships and that kind of a thing. And you can start letting on a little bit about what you're able to do and what you've seen and that kind of a thing, during conversations that come up. So I think it was a slow process to get everybody involved and get everybody where they would accept it, more or less. And then once they accepted it, it started getting to the point to where if they had a strange call or something would go on, they would save it for me, and I would be the one they would send over there. And I mean, even like a lot of times, I would, we had a lot of elderly people, that like to call and talk to us and that kind of a thing. And, at the very least, we'd like to make stops and go speak to people, especially the elderly, because I mean, a lot of them didn't have any family. And, at the very, go have a cup of coffee with them and talk about their day, at least, 5, 10, 15 minutes, and see how they're doing. Well, some of the calls that they would call us on, you would think, well, this person might be a little bit senile. They're seeing things or they're hearing things. Until one day I had a call and a lady told me that there was people that were in her attic. And I looked at her, I was like, what kind of people? I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I can hear people talking and walking around up there. Well, my first thought was, there was a varmint, like a possum or a raccoon or something like that that might be in the attic. And that's what she's hearing. So I decided I would make it a point to go up into the attic and go look for myself, just to kind of make her feel better. Really expecting to find either an animal or, some sort of scat or something like that would, lead me to believe that, okay, well, we do have a raccoon or a possum or something else that's living up here. Well, when I went up into the attic, while I was up there looking around with the flashlight, I'll be darned if I did not hear a voice. And it was a voice of a man, and it was kind of a, hey. And I looked, and I mean, it startled me, and I'm looking around. And then I heard something move, and I heard another voice that was male, but I couldn't make out what was being said. So I started looking into the area of where that voice came from. And as I was walking around, I caught a glimpse of a shadow that moved that was human size. And I went looking and looking, and I couldn't find anything. But I was literally... it gave me chills. I thought to myself, wow, she really has something up here that's really bothering her. I had arranged after that, to have somebody come over and do a blessing of the house just for, to make her feel better about the whole thing. And it seemed to have worked. So that was the beginning of the investigative process that I started, back in around 1999 or 2000 thereabouts when I actually put a team together of all law enforcement and paramedics and firefighters. That was the first team that we actually put together to investigate these kind of things.
Man, thank you for that story. That was interesting, because this is just one, and there's many things like this. And I want to do a little bit of an explanation. Have you also explained this mission, or should I call it, or this expedition that you're going on later on? But you also have, could you talk a little bit about the investigative work that you do now? That you have using electronic equipment to actually prove some of these things. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, as everybody knows, I mean, there's all kinds of electronics and things that investigators use for the paranormal. And you have to understand that most of the electronics that you see and hear about, or that you watch on TV, that equipment was not actually made for the investigation of the paranormal or to try and capture anomalies like that. I mean, this is stuff that was used in other parts or in other fields of work, such as your infrared. That was not designed at the time to investigate hauntings. Your forward-looking radar or FLIR, your forward-looking infrared, that was not actually used for paranormal investigations. But all this kind of stuff has been adapted into the paranormal field because we have been getting results with it. So what we're doing is we're taking this stuff a step further, and we're increasing some of the sensitivities, not only in the light array of colors and images that we're doing, but we're also working with sound waves and things of that nature, whether it's a lower frequencies or higher frequencies, and attempting to communicate by using sound, which if you look all the way back toward the Egyptian times, sound was used for a variety of different things. And as you know today, sound can also cause you to feel ill. Sound can cause you to feel good. Music can cause you to feel good. But everything a lot of times deals with sound waves or some sort of or sound actually has some sort of influence in its direct area. So whether it's music, whether it's a tone, whether it's a frequency of some sort. So we're looking into those aspects as well, and have been having pretty good luck with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I saw, I think it was on YouTube, I saw a video where you were in a house and you had the the screens set up, and you were testing the different temperatures in the room, and you actually had this aberration looking like a stick man that was actually moving, because of that is what the electronic equipment picked up. But
okay, now that right there, let me tell you about this, Aage. This is what's really, really cool. Like I told you before, a lot of the stuff that has been used for investigations isn't for paranormal investigations. That's not what it was created for. However, we decided what we were going to use was Kinect, which is normally used for video games. Okay. And what it does, it picks up figures, and it tries to make, if it picks up movement or it picks up something that could possibly be a human figure of such, it tries to map that figure out, and it gives you a map imprint in the shape of a stick figure. And what we were doing there was we decided what we were going to do, because there was a mirror that you saw in that video, which was supposedly said to cause people to feel bad. Some people said it was a portal. Some people said it was some sort of doorway into the other side. We decided, what would happen if we faced the camera of the Kinect into that mirror that's supposedly a portal or a doorway? And when we did that, it's when we actually had that stick figure manifest in front of us and it actually jumped out of the mirror, as you saw, and was dancing around the floor and crawled up onto the investigator and was actually walking around him. And when we first picked this thing up, it appeared that it went and sat on top of a couch or a chair. It was a chair at first. And when we moved the chair, it moved to the other side of the room and was sitting on the other side of the room on the couch. So it was actually interacting with us as we were manipulating its surroundings. So that was a really good piece of evidence that we captured on that.
Yeah, and I haven't really seen anybody else do this, so you're right on the cutting edge of this, because this kind of stuff, there was an aberration that in the form of energy, you were able to capture it on camera and prove that this is not just made up, this is real.
Right. Well, we can prove that something was happening, whether it was an apparition or whether it was an entity of some sort. You know, there's no way to really say for sure, because you can't make these things come out and act on command. But whatever it was, that piece of equipment that we had was attempting to map out this, whatever it could have been, and try and make a shape out of it. And it would manipulate itself, and it would be all sometimes twisted up, but it would straighten out, and it would move, it would walk, it would grab onto the investigator's leg, it would crawl up on top of him. It was on his shoulder at one time, jumped back in the mirror, jumped out of the mirror, jumped back to the floor, moved around the room, got back to its leg, and then somehow just vanished and disappeared at that point, almost like it went into the investigator's leg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is amazing. That's, because the energy was there, so there was something there, and I guess we can only speculate on what or who it was. But mirrors have always been, since back several thousand years ago, they used, copper mirrors, and they said that created an entry portal into the afterlife. So this is an old concept that, in fact, the Egyptian mind mirror, that is where they put mirrors behind each other, and they put them in a square. You put a chair in the middle, and you sat there, and they said they could talk to the departed ones. Then there is this minister down in the southern part of the United States, Tennessee, I think. He created, they call it the Chapel of the Hills. He created a room which he had mirrors stacked behind each other, and people could walk into this room and put a chair in the middle, sit there and meditate. And they very often had people walk out of the mirror, and they would talk to them. So you can Google this Chapel of the Hill, and you might find this, because very often people were able to talk to their departed ones, and they were standing right in front of them. So this scared a lot of people, but he wrote a book about it too. And this concept with the mirrors, that is real.
Well, the Connect device that we use has been used in paranormal investigations before. However, we were the first team to actually put it to use by aiming it into a mirror and getting that kind of a result. And the other thing that I want to say as far as mirrors go is that we have captured a shadow or something actually looking at us when we've actually stacked mirrors and shot at real high speed, which makes a slow motion video using an infrared light. So you're basically aiming the camera into a mirror and shooting into infinity. And we were able to slow everything down enough to where we actually could see something in a distance manifest itself and then move, when no one else was there to even cause a shape to move like that. Yeah. So these are different things that we were able to capture. And you're right. I mean, the mirrors they're very, very sensitive to things like this. And any investigator who's gone out and shot pictures or video, anytime you're in a home that has activity or supposed activity, one of the best things to do is to start firing off pictures or video into the reflections of mirrors with certain lights in order to kind of enhance or create an environment to where your video or your actual still pictures can capture something that may manifest at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also like you to talk a little bit about that expedition that you're going on, and also Robert Miles. He's part of that, and I think shortly here I'm going to see if he can call in so you can actually talk to him just a little bit. But this, everybody has heard about, Bigfoot. Not so many has heard about the dog man or a creature like that, but it is, to the people that have seen it and experienced it, it is just as real. And maybe you could talk on that too.
Absolutely. Bigfoot is a mystical creature that I think pretty much anybody growing up has heard about it one time or another. It's been known as Bigfoot, skunk ape, Sasquatch, abominable snowman. There's many terms for this creature, and I truly believe that this thing exists and it's out there somewhere. It's just I would have to say it has to be smarter than us because it's able to stay hidden better than anything we've ever seen. But as you said, the expedition we're going on is going to be dealing with the less talked about dogmen, or also known as what we would consider a werewolf, and some people consider as a skinwalker. Now, a skinwalker to me is something totally different, dealing with your Native Americans and that kind of a thing, but normally with the Ute Indian tribe and the Navajo. But it's a very spiritual. I think the skinwalker is more of a spiritual type entity where that is developed within the tribe, and it takes many years of practice for these braves to actually learn how to do this, or if they even have that ability. But the dog man, I think, is a creature in and of its own, which is similar to Bigfoot, stands between 8 and 9 feet tall, anywhere between 6 and 800 pounds for a full-grown dog man. They're extremely terrifying. They're supposed to have different types of abilities, and more people than what you think have experienced contact with these creatures. It's not something to take lightly. It's probably, I want to say, seen a little bit less than a Bigfoot, but it is definitely seen by a large amount of people, including police officers as well. And it's just not talked about that much because it's such an unbelievably terrifying creature that most people are too afraid to talk about it. Sometimes I've heard that they've been seen roaming around with the Sasquatch. Other times I've heard that they've fought with Sasquatch over territories, different things of that nature. So, I mean, there's not as much known about the dogman as there is about a Bigfoot, but there's enough sightings worldwide to know that these things do exist, and there's enough witnesses now that are willing to come forward to speak about it in order for us to kind of put it together a map and kind of be able to go into these areas where they're most seen and try and capture video evidence of these things.
Yeah, and in fact, I found an old newspaper clip of the fact that the U.S. Army has recognized that Bigfoot is real, and they consider it to be real. If we go this far, why should we not look further? There are other creatures, like the dogman and others, that could very well be out there. They're just, like you said, they're smarter than us. They're able to stay hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're in caves, or possible they are slipping in and out of physical existence. We know there's more than one universal vibration here. We're not the only ones. There are parallel universes. So maybe there is some slippage between two of them where they're coming in, visiting for a while, and they just go back. What do you think? Could that be possible?
I think it's possible, and I think that the ability for them to jump in between different realms of existence is a very big possibility as well, too. We're just starting to learn more and more and more about the possibility of portals in different areas that are sensitive to opening up and having tears within these different times of existence, or areas of existence, I should say, where manifestations can slip back and forth in between the two worlds. And even though it's the same world, there's it's more thought. How would I say this? It's thought more often than not that these worlds exist, and that the ability for these creatures to come in and out of these worlds is actually becoming more of a real thing. There was some footage that has not been released that I've seen yet, but that I know exists from Skinwalker Ranch up in northwestern Utah or northeastern Utah, and it's right there in close to the lands of the Ute and the Navajo, where some investigators were up on a hillside and actually saw what appeared to be a portal open up in the middle of a field, where there was like a yellow light of sorts that opened up, and one was watching through an infrared scope, the other one was watching with his naked eye, and the one with the naked eye could kind of see what was going on, but the one with the infrared scope actually saw into that portal, and he could see this creature that was crawling out or crawling toward the exit of that portal, crawled out into this world basically out of nowhere, out of thin air, and the portal slowly closed up behind him. And that's documented proof that these things exist. And at the time, this is footage that was shot on Skinwalker Ranch in northeastern Utah. So, I mean, the more we dig into the paranormal and the more people that actually look into it and work toward finding these supposed hotspots, I think the more evidence we're going to be able to gather in order to show that these things do exist. So yes, to answer your question, I know I kind of went the long route, but yeah, I do believe that this is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And in fact, there's a book on these dogmen. It's called Lycandroid. The book was written by Robert Miles and Leslie Mitz. And they talk in the back of the book, they talk about case histories, verified case histories of people that has been attacked by these creatures and have seen them. So, and there's quite a few of them. And we're getting up around 2.5 minutes from a break here. So when we get back, I would like us to maybe look at the website that has been set up for this, and also maybe talk to maybe Leslie or Robert here. For those of you that sitting in front of the computer right now, you can go to timestreampictures.com. That is timestreampictures.com. And you can see the page that is set up for this mission that you're going on here. And it speaks of the deadly dogmen that you're going to be trying to hunt down and see if you can find one. We got just a little more time here, and then we're going to be coming back. But think of this. Really, have you thought this all the way through? What would you do if you found one and was face to face with him? Would you shoot him? What would you do?
Well, you know what? I don't like to think about getting out there and actually hunting something down and killing it or taking its life.
But self-defense.
Of course, if it was a self-defense issue, you know, I'll have to do what I have to do. It's not my intention to hurt or harm any of these creatures. I just want to try and document them. And if they'll allow it, and I'm able to, that would be the best scenario. But of course, if push comes to shove, you know, I'll have to defend myself any way I can. And, you know, we have the technology and the equipment to do that. But, you know, my intent is to actually get out there and document, not harm or hurt. But if push came to shove and I had no other choice, well, you know, like I said, I'll have to do what I have to do in order to defend myself and the crew.
Yeah. Yeah. And, This could be a very interesting experience, because I know you're not going blindly out into the woods and just looking around. There is some hint to that it is there.
Right, exactly. And there's people who have good information that they're going to share with us as far as where to look, where our chances are the best.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go and take a little break here for 3 minutes, and then we'll be back. We'll be speaking with Eddie Hill with the Paranormal Analytical, and then we will be hopefully talking to Robert Miles or Leslie Mitz here about, because they created this movie the movie series you're also creating. So let's talk about all that when we get back.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on latenightinthemidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
The L&M Radio Network offers a chat room for you, the listener, to connect with others whom are interested in the topics and guests that the L&M Radio Network brings to you. During the live shows, the hosts will even visit the chat room and chat with you, the listener. Click on the big red Chat and Listen button at the top of the website and join us. No subscription is needed at either lnmradionetwork.com or latenightinthemidlands.com.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vera on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guests reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vera not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
There is a better radio show, beyond that which is known to the people. It is a radio show more informative than others, and as timeless as infinity. It is the equilibrium between light and dark, between the sheeple and the paranormal, and it is heard at the base of man's ignorance and at the summit of his knowledge. This is the radio show of imagination, a show we call The Secret Teachings.
And hello, we are back. We are back with Eddie Hill, and we're going to talk more about their excursion that they're going on looking for this strange creature. And you still there, Eddie?
I am right here.
All right, good deal. Since we had some computer problems earlier here, I'm suspicious, you know. But everything's looking good. So now you are going on this trip, and you're going to be having your crew with you, and you are going to document this. So and what is you are going out there to try to find them, And you have some leads, I suppose?
Correct. We do have some leads on where we're going to be going and what we're going to be looking for. And of course, we're going to be talking to witnesses who have had encounters. There are also police officers that have had encounters with these things to also add to a lot of the credibility which that these things exist. And as some of them said, you know, they know for a fact that they're not bear, they're not actual wolves. I mean, these are officers that have dealt with these creatures, you know, before, you know, such as your bears and wolves and things of that nature when they've come into the different neighborhoods and areas and things of that nature. But there, some of them that have actually had encounters, and they can tell you that they were so scared, you know, even with using a 12-gauge shotgun, that they were afraid to fire on the creature because they did not feel that the outcome would be in their favor, even carrying such a high-powered weapon. And they're very insistent on the fact that it was not a bear standing up on hind legs. It was not a wolf. They've dealt with them. They've seen them all their lives. They know for a fact that this was something totally different, totally out of the norm. And it scared them to the point to where it literally made them sick, you know, and they felt bad.
Boy, that would be scary. And I think maybe if Robert or Leslie here is listening, maybe they can call in and we can talk a little bit about this also, what they are doing in regard to this. And for the ones of you that is in front of your computer or your pad or your telephone, go to timestreampictures.com. And also when you get there, there is quite a bit of write-up on both you and your crew, and also, you know, like Robert and Leslie, they are the showrunners for the, are you planning 6 shows or something like that? Or
well, it all depends. It's going to all depend on the amount of evidence we're able to gather. So we're looking between 4 and 6 different shows in order to put out the information that we need to put out on these creatures and whatever it is that we do find out about them. So hopefully if it takes 6 shows, we'll do 6. If it takes 4, we'll do 4. But whatever the case is, we don't want to stop until we can get some sort of definitive proof that these things exist. Or, you know, and I can tell you this right now, even before I even go out there, you know, I have to be kind of skeptical about this, more so than I normally would be about Bigfoot and or any of these other creatures, only because, I don't know, to me, this is something that's a lot harder to wrap my head around, but I am probably the most convinced out of our team that these things do exist. And I have to say that after talking with people that have had encounters and that kind of a thing, I don't know what they saw per se because I was not there, so I can't tell you definitively this is what it was. But I can tell you one thing. They thoroughly believe what they saw was a dogman or / werewolf type creature. You know, they thoroughly believe it. So if you have this many people that believe that this thing is out there and it exists, it's kind of hard for me to deny that fact and say all these people are wrong. Something's there and they believe they saw something, and whatever it was scared them beyond anything they've ever encountered before.
Yeah, and I know this is it's been observed in many different areas of the United States, but also in Europe, like the Transylvanian mountains and in Romania and back in Poland in the backwoods, and also in the Alps in Switzerland. They've been observed. And gosh, this is a thought. Diana here, she was born and raised in Poland.
In Romania.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Romania. And when you grew up or when you lived there before you moved to Germany, did you hear about anything like this, people talking about it?
Yes, of course, but this was something I grew up with, so for me it was nothing phenomenal, it was something normal. Well, they are talking in the Bucegi Mountains, there are phenomenal stuff happening there, and It is also people around the world, specialists and researchers, they are meeting there in Romania to research about that.
Yes, are they in the northern part of Romania, up in the more mountainous areas? Is maybe that possibly where they are seen more, do you think? Or
there are many places where they are seen, especially in this forest that is also believed that it is a junction between two or more dimensions. This is a forest in Transylvania. It is called Baciu Forest, and it's very. There are lots of documentary also in English did by the Americans about this, because it's considered to be like the Bermuda Triangle from Romania. And in the Bucegi Mountains, there are people, they are living there in the village. They see this creature since they were born, or the kids, they are going there and play with some I don't know how to call them, with some unusual creature, and they can also see them. And we also know that the kids until the age of 7 years old, they keep the connection to the other dimension, and they can see this creatures. And for us, it was something normal to talk about that. You know?
Was this considered more of a folklore to you, or was it something that was real?
At that time, when I was a little kid, I felt like it was folklore. But now, as I grew up and I know all the researches, and I'm also very connected to a lot of documentary and a lot of TV shows that they are researching about that, I know this is very real, because they have also pictures. They have films. The Romanian researcher that they are going there, they are they have on their films and their pictures something very real. You cannot see, and there are many specialists there. Then they are coming in the shows, and they say that their pictures are 100% real. And I know these people, so you know, when you are in connection with a country, you know who you can trust in. So there are very credible people. Yes. So like general from the army, that is he has his own TV show about this. So, I know.
So that army general has his own show dealing with these type of creatures.
Yes, with all kind of paranormal stuff, because he was a general in the Romanian army, and he was a radiolocation general. I don't know to say this stuff in English, but he was the specialist in our time where Ceausescu was our president. He was the specialist for all the paranormal stuff, because the Ceausescu family, the president, they were very obsessed about all the paranormal UFOs and everything that is not, in the news, let's say like that. And he was the special agent, let's say. He was a general in the army.
Do you think he would be willing to talk to us, or do you have any way of contacting him?
Yes, I can contact him, but he cannot speak. I don't think he can speak English, because I always hear him in his show when he gives some words from English that is very... I will ask him, but I don't think he can do a radio show in English.
Well, maybe a translation would be awesome, if we could have somebody to translate for him.
Yes, that would be, of course. And he can speak Russian, because he worked a lot with the Russian government.
Привет, извините, пожалуйста, как вас зовут?
Yeah, something like that.
That went right over my head.
Yeah, как тебя зовут, I know also.
Well, you see, Diana speaks 7 languages, so she's ahead of it.
But not Russian.
I know just enough Russian to get me in trouble.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's what I have noticed too, that when it comes to these things, they are much more open in Europe, and especially Eastern Europe, because they accept it almost probably as much as they do in South America when it comes to UFOs.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I have to say about that is they are very open in these other countries. The United States is now starting to open up little by little. So it's not something that's completely closed off, or I should say was something like a bad omen if you spoke about it like it was back then, say in the 70s or 80s or even before that. Now it's becoming something that is talked about, something that's more accepted, and something that people are starting to listen to in order to try and gather and gain more information about their surroundings and starting to take more notice. There was a lot of times when I used to say people used to walk around with their head stuck in the sand because they, basically see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, that whole kind of concept. But now they're starting to pull their heads out of the sand a little bit and start to look at the world around them and know that there are other things out there that we can't explain as of yet, but that we're working on. And that's not saying that everybody can't explain it. I have a deep belief that we do have some government agencies and things of that nature, black ops and that kind of a deal that knows what these things are, but keeps them hidden from the public, of course.
Yeah.
And they're trying to keep these things under wrap. And for those of us trying to bring it out into the public, it makes it even harder for us because of the misinformation and everything else that's going on within the government itself.
Yeah. And I think we have Robert and Leslie with us. So for those of you sitting in front of the computer again, go to Timestream Pictures and maybe timestreampictures.com. And Robert, are you there with us, or is it Leslie? Timestreampictures.com. And Robert, are you there with us, or is it Leslie? Timestreampictures.com. And Robert, are you there with us, or is it Leslie? Timestreampictures.com. And Robert, are you there with us, or is it
Robert, can I ask you to mute your live stream there so we can hear you?
Robert, can I ask you to mute your live stream there so we can hear you? Robert, can I ask you to mute your live stream?
Okay. Now, okay, are you there, Katie? No.
I am.
We're
Okay,
here.
go ahead.
We're here.
Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, Robert, you should turn off the live stream and then just speak on Skype. Yeah, Robert, you should turn off the live stream and then just speak on Skype.
Yeah, we're picking up a lot of feedback, a lot of squealing. Yeah, we're picking up a lot of feedback, a lot of squealing.
Now that sounds better.
I think he just
Robert.
dropped the call.
Oh,
So I'll give him a call back privately, and then I'll bring him back
Okay.
in a minute.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Feel free to
I
go
was
on.
talking about timestreampictures.com here, and at the very top of it, you will find that there is a place where you can click on this as opt-in for email updates. Just click on that, and you're going to get email updates about what is happening on this journey, as well as other things that they are up to. And you also there will be some things that can be sent to you for information only. And I don't know if we are able to bring up the page to show it for just a moment so people could see it, but if that is possible, that would be okay too.
It's up, Aage.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I guess you are also looking for people to possibly come along with you. Maybe somebody would help to fund this trip, and if somebody would step forward and say, hey, this sounds like an exciting thing, can I help you with it? Then I'll help fund it. Would you welcome something like that?
Absolutely. And like I said, I mean, if we can get somebody to help fund the whole excursion and get out there with us, I think once they see how we work and the type of equipment we're using and what we're doing, they're going to see that it's a very professional run type excursion that we're going to be putting together. And any funding, you know, whether it's just pocket change or whatever you can afford to send in, it's a great help because these things are very expensive to put together. It costs a lot of money to be able to fund these type of projects and excursions with the, you know, camera and equipment and everything else and travel expenses and all that. And a majority of this stuff, you have to understand, we're normally putting out of our own pockets. Yeah. So we normally pay for this stuff ourselves. And this is something that we've been doing over the years. So any help that we can get is, it would be a big help to us where we can actually get out there and do a proper investigation and get the information out to the public on whatever it is that we do find while we're out and about.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good. And I know Robert mentioned that you were thinking, I don't know if you're going to do this or not, but you were thinking of starting a crowdfunding around the 16th of April or something like that?
Correct. Yeah. And Robert, he's the one putting all that together. I'm kind of the grunt. I go out and do the footwork out in the field. So
okay.
all that stuff as far as crowdfunding and all that, you know, that's something that he takes care of. And he's very good at putting everything together and working this type stuff. I'm more of the boots on the ground type person. You know, I take care of that. I do, you know, I get in front of the camera and I talk my brains out and look for different deals. And I put all my police experience, you know, and use all of that in the investigative process while we're out and about looking, whether it's interviewing witnesses, whether it's looking for evidence, whether it's searching an area or climbing up to the mountaintop or whichever the case may be. You know, I'm very much boots on the ground and I go out looking for this thing. So that's my role in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a crowdfunding for something like this, I think could be very exciting because people would love to get first-hand information coming back from the field like this. I sure would.
Absolutely. And we had put together Altervision Studios, which is the basically the studio that I work with mostly, you know, and that's, I do a lot of the paranormal investigations with Altervision Studios is with Miguel Cantu, and he put together a small video of us actually out looking for some of these creatures, which I sent to you guys. I don't know if you can put that up on the page as well, but that's it's kind of like a teaser to what's to come. And I mean, it's just a short little clip, couple of minutes long, you know, of us out in the field doing our thing. And it's just a very tiny, small piece of what we're actually going to be doing. This is, you know, if you see this, don't even consider this being something that it's the whole show, because it's not. This is just a very tiny piece of what it is we're doing while we're out and about. And so we have many different things. And the other thing that we do quite a bit is on Facebook, on Paranormal Analytical, on the Facebook page, Paranormal Analytical, we'll do a live show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. And we talk about a lot of things paranormal there. And you can also go to look us up on YouTube on Paranormal Analytical as well. And you can see some of the past things that we've done as well. So, I mean, there's a lot to this. And I mean, there's so much that's unknown. And I think that's what makes it the most fascinating for me, is that there's so much that we don't know. I'm very inquisitive and I love to go dig and I love to go find out. And any type of help we can get for funding to make sure that this actually takes place would be a great help. Like, you have no idea. So any help that you guys can give, you know, we would more than appreciate it. No matter how small or how big it may be, anything is a help. And we really appreciate it.
That sounds good. And I know Diana and I was talking before the show, and she was wondering, what was your question there about? I forgot now.
No, I just wanted to ask you, what was the scariest case you have been on?
The scariest case I have been on would have to be one that dealt with a demonic entity. And it was a very, very trying case that we were working on, where it was involving a 13-year-old girl who had dark shadows that would appear in her room, throw her stuffed animals around the room. Her games would start up on their own. You know, all the typical scary stuff that you think you would possibly see if something like that would happen to you was happening to this little girl. And I remember when we went there to interview her, she was living with her grandma at the time. And it was an older home, and there was a big lightning storm that was building, and it was a big, big storm that was coming in. And so I felt we were kind of pressed for time, so we had to hurry up. And we ran inside real quick to make sure we didn't get caught in the rain.
You couldn't pick a better day, could you?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, it just kind of added to the whole, you know, feeling of the thing, you know. And so we go inside and we're talking to her, and they're telling us about this dark shadow and all this stuff that's going on. And while this is taking place, all of a sudden it sounded like a tornado got cut loose on the upper floor, where things were sounded like they were getting thrown around and things were breaking, and just all this noise and racket, and that you could feel the shake in the house on the floor, you know, from the roof above you, because I mean that's the floor on the second floor. But you could feel all this vibration and hear it. And I looked at the grandma and I said, is this that thing that we're here to look into? And she said yes. And I said, can we go upstairs? She goes, absolutely. So myself and another police officer, we ran up the stairs, and as we were going up the stairs, all of a sudden he flew back into me. I caught him with one arm, grabbed the rail with the other. Both of us almost fell off the staircase, and I pushed him back up, and I was like, what the heck happened? He said, something hit me in the chest. And I was like, hit you in the chest? And he said, yeah. And he lifted up his T-shirt, and there were 2 red handprints, like right there on his chest, where something had smacked him. And he said, I'm not going up. And I said, you're going up. I was like, you're not backing down. I was like, we're going to go up there. And I forced him, so we went up to the top floor. And even though it sounded like the whole top floor basically came off or came apart, there was nothing that was out of place. You know, and I thought to myself, there's no way with that amount of racket that there's nothing out of place. Well, we set up our equipment, and we set up recorders and infrared cameras and multi-spectrum cameras, and just we had everything set. We had that whole house wired. You could not move in that house without us knowing about it. Okay. And at that point, I went upstairs and I went to the little girl's room, and we had everybody outside. You know, we had the whole house empty. I went and sat on her bed, and I looked at and I was sitting there looking into the infrared camera, and I said, you like scaring little girls. Come scare me. You know, basically calling this thing out a little bit, you know, because it was that aggressive. And I didn't hear nothing, didn't feel anything. We did our investigation. Nothing else unusual happened that night. But when we went to go check our audio and our cameras, we had this thing calling my name, and a lot of the audio on EVPs or electronic voice phenomena, you could hear it calling my name. On one of the cameras downstairs, we picked up a dark shadow figure, or what we call the Hat Man, which some of you may have heard of, that looked like it came up out of the floor, hovered, went up over toward the ceiling. As it was going up, it blocked out a lazy boy chair from view. That's how dark this thing was. Wow. In pitch black room, you know, shooting infrared, this thing blocked out the infrared from hitting the chair. So it was kind of a solid mass, and it went straight up to the ceiling and went through the ceiling. Well, where it went up through the ceiling was the room that I was in. That was the little girl's room. So when I was calling this thing out, it was at that exact same time. I said, you like scaring little girls? Come scare me. On the recording of that camera, you hear, I'm so scared. Like it was taunting me, like, you know, what are you going to do to me? You know, you're just a human, you know? And so this went on for a while. And I mean, it was this kind of activity that was taking place in there. So when we showed the video of that shadow thing, of that shadow man to the little girl, she took off running. She ran out of the house, and I had to send one of my team members to chase her down and bring her back, because she freaked out. Yeah, she freaked out. She was gone. You know, I'm out of here. And they brought her back. And when they got her back to the house, I said, is that what you see in your room? She said, yes. She said, can you all protect me? And I looked at her, and I mean, that was the first time I actually kind of felt, you know, kind of helpless. But I didn't want her to feel like, you know, they're all hope was lost. And I told her, he said, yes. I said, we're going to help you. And so we tried to get rid of it. And we basically went to a Baptist church across the street. They turned us down. They didn't want anything to do with it. I kind of got into it a little bit with the Baptist preacher, told him that, he had no business leading a congregation if he wasn't even going to go into that house and do a blessing of the home, because seriously, I mean, if you're going to lead a church and lead people, your faith has to be strong enough to lead them. Well, drag your butt in here and, help us out with this case. And he refused. So then I went to the Catholic Church and I talked to a priest, a friend of mine who was a Monsignor. And I told him, I said, is there any way we can get some help? He says, well, right now we need the approval of a bishop, and we don't have a bishop here in San Antonio that can give me the approval, and we're going to need more evidence. He said, before I can go over there and do anything, he said, but look, here's some prayers, here's a crucifix. I mean, he loaded me up with holy water, crosses, medallions. I mean, I looked like an altar boy on steroids walking out of the church with all this stuff I was carrying. And I thought, you know what, I can make this happen. I can get out here and we can get rid of this thing. I said, even though it was kind of like, the Catholic Church is kind of like the Marine Corps of the demonic world, to cast out demons. And instead of the Marines coming in, they're sending in the Boy Scouts. Okay, you guys go in there and see what you can do. So we went over there and we did what we could, and things got quiet. And so it worked. And the little girl said, it worked. She goes, I don't have any more issues. I was like, great. I was all happy. About a week later, she calls back and tells me it's back. So we go back and we did the same thing. And then we get done with that. Well, one of our team members is also a Wiccan. And that was twice that, we had done it. It got quiet, but failed. So I told her, I said, can you bring your coven in to try and see what you guys can do and try and get rid of this thing? So she did. And they went in and they did their deal. Things got quiet. It worked. Great. It happened again. But this time, the little girl called me and she says, don't worry about coming back. It's not going to do any good. And I said, why not? She said, every time you guys get rid of it, my grandmother gets a Ouija board. I saw her and she calls. Oh. And I said, are you serious? She said, yes. And I was like, why on earth would you want to call something like that back? She's told me she likes the attention.
Oh, man.
Well, to make a long story short, I managed to get a hold of the little girl's parents, and I had them go over there and pick her up and get her out of that environment, and we didn't go back. But that's just that had to be the scariest case I think I've ever worked on, mainly because we had investigators that were scratched, where they were literally bleeding. I had one of the girls on the team who was reading out of a prayer book, doing basically like a layman's version of an exorcism for the home. Mm-hmm. She passed out. I had to pick her up and revive her, wake her up, and then have her continue reading and have to help her walk the whole time because it literally sucked the energy out of her. But I couldn't let her stop there because if she gave up in her weakened state, there's no telling what could happen at that point. Yeah. So I made her finish, and she did a great job, and she worked hard and made sure that she finished that prayer before she actually, sat down to rest. So, I mean, I have to give it to my team. They were great, and everybody came together and managed to get through it. But these are the kind of things you deal with when you deal with the paranormal. And sometimes people like that stuff. They like that attention, and sometimes they will call it back. And that was my first experience with that.
Man, oh man. The stupidity of that grandmother. Holy moly.
Hard to believe.
She put her grandchild in danger.
Everybody was in danger.
Yeah.
Not only her, the granddaughter, but us as well. Yeah. And she had, to me, it was like she had no regard for the welfare of anybody. And with that in mind, I thought, you know what, she called this thing back. She can live with it because I'm not going to risk my team again.
Yeah.
I'd risk it for that little girl, but I'm not going to risk it for her if she keeps calling it back.
Yeah. Man, oh man. Well, and the little girl moved and then she was free of it, I suppose.
Yeah, that was the end of it. I didn't hear back from her after that, but she gave me one call after her parents came back and got her, and just basically to thank me and thank the team for everything that we did trying to help her. Yeah. So you know, that made me feel good, you know, because there's so many people that end up having problems like this. They don't have anyone to turn to. They don't have anybody to call. And especially if you're a young child, I mean, who are you going to turn to? So I was just glad that we were there and we happened to be in a position that we could communicate with her and we could help her.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. Man, oh man. And that's just one story. And
that's just one of a million. Yeah. We got so many. I could go on for days. We could make this show go on forever if you want, but we'd probably get kicked off.
No, we're just going over. We're good. We're good. I got the authorization here to go over, so we're good. And I wonder if Robert is back with us, and if he's listening, and maybe we could talk to him too. And that's where, you know, I wanted him to explain a little bit about time stream pictures and the trip that you're doing, and and of course, I'm shameless. So if you look at timestreampictures.com up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little page with me there. So we have our video that, okay, I guess he's not picking up. Okay, so then we're out on that one. But I have the video, 2-hour video of all the things we are not supposed to know about is on that website also. And I was in the chair for 6 hours talking, and we made a 2-hour video of it where we covered anything from UFOs to the deep, dark secrets of the government. So if you listen to that video, make sure you do it in the daytime with the lights on. That'll probably help. All right. Well, when you are into the trip, or maybe even before the trip, and definitely after the trip, we need to do something like this again.
Oh, absolutely. I ought to be looking forward to getting back on. And the other thing that we can do is, if depending on signal, of course, you know, because you just never know where you're going to have signal and where you won't, but there may be times when we could Skype and go live on location with you guys.
Oh,
you know,
I love that.
So just think how cool that would be if we could actually go live and show everybody where we're at and what's going on at that time. You know,
I love it.
That right there, I think I'd love to give the behind the scenes look to people, because so many times, you know, you see a show, you watch TV, you can hear about it on the radio, but you never get to see what's going on behind the scenes and how tough things can really be. You see the cool parts, you see the parts that the editors put together, but you don't see everything. You don't see, you know, how we're out there in the rain, or we're freezing, or it's cold, or, you know, we're trying to get a campfire going and we can't, or, you know, because of the weather, or, you know, different situations like that. There's so much that goes on behind the scene. That's a show in itself, you know, and we've had so many things happen behind the scenes that never gets put on film, just because it's just not part of the show itself, that the producers or the directors or whoever doesn't think needs to be in there. So if we went behind the scenes and we went live with you guys, you can kind of see a little bit about what I'm talking about.
That would be very interesting. I love that. Oh man, yeah, that's good. And I would let's see here, timestreampictures.com, and go and sign up for the email updates, and then I would just wait for the emails to come in, and then we'll keep you updated. And also on that website, you can go down and get the
That is so weird.
psyops. It could be an interdimensional thing, and we don't know where it comes from. So
it could be both, Aage.
Yeah,
because I've heard that the government's taken these lichens and they've done genetic type mutations with humans and also alien DNA. So, I mean, I've heard there's a lot of different hybrids and that kind of thing that was created. So there's a good chance it could be both.
Yeah, because you remember at Montauk, The people at Montauk 40 years ago, they created, by what they were doing there, trying to do time travel, they created an opening and an entity that actually was very physical. They saw it inside the caverns, and it made havoc with them. And in fact, it got so strong, it got out of the cavern, and the neighborhood saw it.
Wow.
So that was a government deep, dark project that they were doing back then, trying to do work with time travel. And if you can look into that, you probably find it. So we know these things can be done, and maybe that's what got away from them. Who knows?
It's very possible. Very, very possible.
Okay, and yeah, Robert says he's here now. Are you there, Robert?
Yeah, good afternoon. Leslie and I are both here.
Hey, Robert and Leslie.
Hi, Eddie.
Hello.
Finally.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Diana.
Hello, Robert. Hello, Leslie.
Hi.
Yeah, I apologize. We've got that new version of Skype, and I was messing with the buttons.
Yeah, that's I got the same disease over here. I haven't figured it out either.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been talking a little bit about your website there, and I would like you to talk a little more on that, because that's going to be a lot of education background for the people that is looking at possibly being part of this or learning more about it. So hey, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just say that anyone that types in www.timestreampictures.com will come to the page where we have begun to lay out the Deadly Dogman TV series. And we're excited to be working with Eddie Hill and his team, because, boy, they're experienced researchers. They've got their boots on the ground when it comes to the paranormal analytical aspects of what this expedition will be about. But if a person goes then to timestreampictures.com and scrolls down, they're going to see a profile on Eddie. They're going to see one on Miguel, who's a special effects person and the producer. They're going to see information on Leslie and myself. And Aage, and as you know, and some of your guests know, we have a long history of doing films, and so we're so excited about this. And if someone, when they land on that page, at the top of the page is a green box that says opt in to updates on the Deadly Dogman series. And we encourage people to do that, because we're going to send out updates as we move forward. I'm really thrilled, because we're all here now, and I wanted to introduce Leslie Metz, who's actually the person that we call the content creator. It was her original concept that led to the creation of this Dogman TV series, and also the book Lycandroids, which I think you've read, right, Aage?
Yes, yeah, I read from cover to cover, and I read it in the daytime with the lights on, so I was safe.
Well, let's Leslie talk about how this came about and why it's important from the standpoint of safety to people who are out there actually in the woods. And now, Leslie, it's actually not just woods, it's a town as well.
Yes, yeah, they've been seen all over, literally all over. And I must say, initially here, someone initially told me about this about 9 years ago, that there were werewolves out there, and I really thought it was just a big joke. And then they gave me a little bit more information, and I started checking into it, and I found out that so many people were disappearing and having violent deaths in national and state forests, rural areas, farms, ranches, and so forth. And then I found out that people were seeing these upright wolf-type creatures. There's some smaller ones that seem to be a little shy, that don't appear deadly, but the big bodybuilder types, of which there are actually 2, they are deadly. They've been known to rip people apart. There's a family of 4 ripped apart in Kentucky, and another hunter killed in the same area by one. So these things, the big ones, can be deadly. So I got to looking into it, and I'm kind of suspecting they may be from another dimension. They're a cryptid type creature. I don't know if they're coming back and forth or they came from another dimension and they're just here now, because they've been seen really in countries all over the world. But most importantly, they're all over the United States and Canada and farther south. But I wrote the book to make sure people are aware of them before they go hiking, camping, hunting, fishing, sending kids off to camp and so forth, because these creatures are out there, and since they are deadly, you need to be well informed to make an informed decision as to whether you really want to go out there or not.
Yeah, and like we were just talking about, this is not just the United States, it's all over the world that these types of things happen.
Yes, and they're being seen more and more frequently and coming in closer. They used to be primarily seen in the forests, and now they've even been seen in urban areas. One was seen in near a golf course in Phoenix. Another one was seen just off Lake Michigan in Chicago by a sheriff's deputy and her friend, and it was up in a tree. And they were absolutely terrified, and they got out there as quick as they could. So really, these things can frankly be anywhere at this point.
Yeah, and Aage, it's important that people know that what led to the whole Deadly Dogman expedition was that Leslie and I wrote a book called Lichen Droids. And the term lichen means wolf, and droid, of course, refers to something possibly cybernetic. And we wrote the first part of the book as a science fiction book. So when people read the book or get it as a Kindle, I think right now the Kindle's about $1.98. But what they'll read is a science fiction story that's based completely on facts. And it's set a little bit into the future. And there is an element of this because the full title is Lichen Droids, Super Soldiers, and the Freedom War. And what we mean by that is there's a lot of evidence that not only the Nazis, but other countries have developed super soldiers. And their abilities are so incredible. They can jump as much as 60 feet in the air. They can run at 60 miles an hour or faster. And they're so powerful and so deadly that I am really gratified that Eddie's got a big game rifle. Right, Eddie?
Yeah, I've got a big game rifle. I guarantee you, whatever is in front of it, it's not going to want to be there.
Yeah.
So that rifle, we were talking last night, Aage, that rifle is actually a rifle that's used for big game hunting in like safaris in Africa. So
50 caliber?
No, it's a 416.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Eddie, talk a little bit about that weapon. Its size, how would it compare to like a 50 caliber machine gun?
Oh, well, there's no comparison between the two. I mean, the 50 cal BMG is definitely by far a much bigger, more powerful round. But then again, you've got to understand that trying to carry a 50 BMG, which, you know, I've fired them before, they're so heavy you couldn't carry them, you know, a mile out before you have to stop and take a break because they're just so heavy. But the 416 has got ample power. It's used mainly for African game planes such as water buffalo and you know, any type of big game animal there in Africa. It's also been used at, you know, certain times to hunt elephant and things of that nature. I'm not a big game hunter by any means, you know, but I love collecting my rifles, and I have all different kinds, styles, shapes, models, you know, you name it. But the whole thing is that this weapon, you know, firing the 400 grain solid that it has, and being modified a slight bit, nothing's going to really be able to stand up to it if you have to use it. And like I said before, I'm not going out there with the intention of having to hurt or harm anything, but we will have the firepower and the equipment backing us in case we do have to defend ourselves in any case.
Yeah, the mission is to document.
Correct. That's the mission, to document and live and let live, and hopefully everybody goes home happy, and that's the best outcome.
Yeah.
What people might like to check out if they opt into that green Deadly Dogman update button there on the web page.
At the top left.
It's up there at the top on the left. Thank you, Leslie. They're going to, here very soon, we'll have an update mailing go out about the start of Seed and Spark filmmaking campaign, where we're targeting April the 16th as the launch day, because the 15th is Freedom Day, right, Augie?
Yeah, that's April Fool's Day. Some of you got that one.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to have like a crowdfunding campaign, and we're going to invite people. If you can't contribute, that's fine. Just share it to your friends and your social media network. And then the campaign's going to run for 60 days. So that puts us hopefully being able to start the expedition in June. And we're so excited about it with Eddie and Miguel and Renee and Patrick and everybody there because they're the type of people that aren't afraid to do this. And most people just talk about and dream about doing things. But we feel it's reached a time where, like Leslie said, there's so much danger from this horrific creature that it's time to go out and absolutely expose whatever it is that's taking place with these lichen bugs.
Yeah, because some may be hybrids really actually created to be super soldiers. There's a lot of evidence to that. That's why we call them lichen droids in the book and kind of went that direction. Some may be, from other dimensions, and some may be created. All possibilities are on the table, but whatever, there's at least two types that are very violent and very powerful that you can be aware of.
And you see, the main thing that I want everybody to know is that, we don't want people to be afraid to go into the woods or to go camping or to take their family out, but we want people to be informed so that they know what's out there. Just like if you go into an area that is known to have a high bear concentration or wolf concentration or some sort of predator or mountain lion, you take extra precautions in those areas to protect yourself and your family, but you still get out and you enjoy the outdoors. We want that to be the same here. We don't want you to be afraid to go out there, but we want you to be informed. That way you know what needs to happen or what could happen when you go out there, and you can take proper precautions to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah.
I've read about these, many of them, there are different names for them, anything from, the werewolves to whatever. And this is different than going out trying to find Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a scaredy cat. Once you come up on them, they run away usually. They don't bother people. They like to be hidden. But this one is more aggressive.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And in the book, it's very aggressive. And so another important thing, Augie, and I know you've watched Eddie's sizzle reel.
Yeah.
But on that Time Stream Deadly Dogman page, there's a box there that you click and it takes you right to Eddie and his team reel. And what is it, Eddie? About 3 minutes long or 4 minutes long?
Yeah, I believe it's under 3 minutes.
Well, people will get an idea not only of the great things they're doing in terms of seeking out these forms or whatever these energies and possibly even people, but they also are really high quality filmmakers. So it's just a blessing, thanks to Leslie and Eddie getting together, I guess, on Facebook. And we now have what Leslie and I was missing, and that's a team of people that are not only willing, they're qualified to undertake an expedition like this.
Yeah, well, Leslie and I had our run-ins with our werewolves online, which was interesting. But that's how we met, and maybe we'll go into that sometime a little bit later on. But yeah, that was an incredible ordeal there for about the first, I guess, month, Leslie?
At least, and it's still ongoing.
Yeah, it still goes.
But we invite people to get involved. One of the great things about doing a picture project with Seed and Spark is that they ask people, and they have a large number of filmmakers. They've done over, hundreds of films through Seed and Spark. They make it possible for people to take part in these expeditions, and some people will probably be invited to be on camera, and we'll be sending regular video updates, and of course we'll have rewards, all kinds of them. So it's just wonderful. Thank you, Aage, and Late Night in the Midlands, Katie and Daryl and everybody for coping with us this afternoon, trying to get us on.
Yeah, we were working hard at trying to get you on, and the mechanics of things just didn't make it happen right away.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah, do you have any questions in your chat there, Aage?
I am not seeing it, so I'm not there, but I know we got 4 minutes left of the show, and I want to add my 2 cents to Robert here, that wouldn't it be fun to go along on a trip like this? Man, oh man, just get out in the woods and look and try to find a creature like this. If there's somebody out there, look into it, because it can be done. Get a hold of Eddie and talk this over, because I think this could be something that, hey, you might be telling your grandkids about, Yeah.
Well, not only that, but you could be on the breaking edge of being able to prove that something exists that no one knows about yet. And how cool would it be to be a part of that expedition where something is proven to be either real or false? But if it turns out to be real, could you imagine, how neat that would be to pass it on to your kids, to your grandkids, and to your family members, that you were a part of that expedition, and that you were a part of the funding to make that happen, to where these creatures were identified and properly cataloged, and we're able to show scientifically that they are real.
Yeah.
On that topic, I don't know if I've told Eddie yet, but I have a good friend who was head of the Phoenix Crime Lab. He's a forensic chemist, and his wife is also, and she was with the ATF there in San Diego for probably 15 years. But they volunteered to go ahead and analyze, using equipment they have, that they can use the DNA aspects. And so even if we just get some fur, or we get, some scat or whatever, we're going to be able to provide real samples of what this is, and hopefully we'll get some DNA and we can go that route as well.
That's a good thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well, we're kind of down to the end of the show here, so let's plan on doing definitely one after you get back, and if there's new updates before the show, then
Hello?
It looks...
Hello?
Hello? I got kicked off, but I got back on again.
You're fast.
Okay.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
Didn't know I was that fast. All right, well, we're down to the end. So anyway, I sure thank you for being on here with us, and the whole crew here. We had a blast, so we'll do it again. And
hey guys, It's been wonderful, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. And like I said, we get out into the field. If we have some signal, maybe we can go live and do some behind-the-scenes stuff for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, it doesn't have to be, it could be live, but it could also be a live recording if for some reason that we don't have access to the network at that time. So we can make a recording of it live, and then we can transmit that later.
Absolutely.
I want to thank Diana, too. And Diana, I'm sure in Europe you know a lot of legends and you've heard a lot about creatures.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. So I thank you very much. And then until next week, we'll be here again with another story. And until then, good night and good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.